Hey guys, I'm Angie Designs and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is a little bit different. It's not my usual format at all because this is actually a kind of, I guess, preview, but also kind of little highlight of the panel that I ran at Cornwall and Area Pop event back on April 24th, 2022. I was running my panel about cosplay and magic, essentially magic tricks and performance. So I was kind of giving some demonstrations showing different bits and pieces of different things I've done on the stage before and how to perform them. So I figured it'd be kind of fun to show you guys a little bit of that panel and show you guys my favorite part of the panel, which was towards the end when I demonstrate a costume change. So I hope you guys enjoy this very different video of mine and enjoy a look at what one of my panels look like. Hope you enjoy it. So this is a fan fiction waiting to be written, very much so. I love it very much. So this was part of mine and Allison's skit during the World Cosplay Summit preliminaries in 2018. We were Cardcaptor Sakura, again, not from that same skit, different Cardcaptor Sakura skit. I've done a few. But we were Cardcaptor Sakura and Tomoyo, with her best friend who likes making her outfits. So a friend who likes making outfits means there's a character who has a ton of outfits. So we decided to pick 3 of hers, and then she also had a secondary character that she changed into after. So our skit was a quick change skit. So the first dress I had on was a very simple dress. It's the grandfather dress, one her grandfather gives her. Simple dress, big sleeves, high neck, decently long, I think it was down to my mid-shin, really cute, and the way it was ribbed. All down the back were snaps that were all connected to each other on a snap tape. And those are great because snap tape, when you use it, if you pull one, you're using a little bit more pressure to pull all the other ones because they're all connected on a tape. So it makes like a whole like a domino effect when you pull on them. So I'd be wearing that first dress, Tomoyo threw me behind a curtain, and within seconds I come out in this dress. This dress does not work exactly that same way, and this was probably the most complicated part of the entire skit. If we didn't nail this, the skit would kind of fall apart at that point. We'd have to try to save it in the second half of the skit, because this was in the first half. So, Sakura comes back out onto the stage, like, ta-da, new outfit! And Tomoyo looks at it, goes, I don't like this. We need you to change again. But instead of just throwing her behind the curtain, because that would be kind of boring, we decided, what if she just kind of spun? Go ahead.
So, get this hand up here.
This dress. Oh, we took a part of the cat with us. So this dress took a lot of figuring out. Allison has done several costume changes in the past, but usually the method of the seams are all fake and have magnets and or snaps depending on which one. This one couldn't be quite that way because of the rollout. So usually when you make a dress, it would have like side seams. You have the waist attached to the waist of the skirt, and then you have the petticoat as an undergarment, completely unattached or attached to the seam else like underneath. But we realized when we were trying to figure this out that wouldn't work, because then the petticoat would still be on, but then the dress would be off, and then it would be a really clumsy method of removing a piece. So you didn't want it to be clumsy, you wanted it to be kind of smooth, like we just saw there. So essentially, we kind of had to take the idea of how you make a dress and kind of throw it all in the garbage and try something else. Because if we had just made a dress normally, it wouldn't work. So essentially, one side of the bodice is made normally. There's a normal sleeve in there with a very normal sleeve armhole with some elastic in it, so it has the nice little puff, and a regular side seam. The second seam is where it gets weird. This seam, all the way up the underarm and all the way on the shoulder, is completely fake and just has that snap tape that I mentioned before. So when she was pulling out of it, what she was pulling on was this little tab here. Take it and you start, oh yeah, that little tab over there. Which then creates the rollout effect. Because when you start rolling out of this side, and she was pulling quite hard, all of this starts to roll, because this is one piece of thick bias tape attaching it, which creates that domino effect, which pulls it up here. All Colette had to do there, besides turning in the right direction, because when we did it a few times in rehearsal, I spun the wrong way. It doesn't work if I spin the wrong way. Oops, good thing that was only during rehearsal. But all Colette has to do, or beware of this particular thing, is take the shoulder and just pull it. Just snap it open. We only would attach every third or second snap, depending on how we wanted to go or practiced. But that pressure will just pull it down. And in the moment of spinning and being like, oh, you're changing my outfit, it can be a really smooth transition because it's not like you're sitting there and just going like that. She's actively spinning and just reacting like, oh, we're changing outfits. Down it comes. No one even notices the pull because they're too busy looking at all of this come out of there. We've seen some people do this where like the petticoat underneath is rainbow, like I think someone did it with like 3 rotations, and each rotation of it had a different color. So there's a lot of ways that this can be really clever and really, really cool. But it takes a little bit of brain power to figure out how to do it properly, because there's gonna be a lot of times, okay, I got it, and then you try it and it's like, wait, did I do that seam right? Did I finish that correctly? There's a lot of that happens with these kind of tricks. The other cool thing about this one, and with costume changes in general, is that you have to plan your layers ahead. You can't just be, I want this, this, and then this. You have to make sure that the layers work with each other. In the case of this skit, on the very bottom, I was wearing a high-low, so it was very long in the back, short in the front, skirt, and a strapless bodice. So this garment comes down quite a bit down my neckline. And so the strapless part was covered, so you couldn't see it. And the bottom of the skirt was just kind of tussled up in the fluff. So when I spun out, suddenly this skirt just falls out as she's taking the waist off. So she pulls that bias off of me, and suddenly, boom, skirt just falls out gracefully. Now, the dress on top was a high neck with bigger sleeves and had a longer skirt to cover that. And it looked very poofy underneath because there was quite a bit of layers happening. So we had to plan our outfits. Again, Cardcaptor Sakura has well over 200, 500 outfits canonly in the media, whether it's in the show, in the comics, manga, or just some of their official illustrations. So we were like, okay, we have a lot we can work with here. So we picked garments that we first off knew we could make and knew would actually layer properly. Because if they didn't layer well, the whole thing could have fallen apart. Allison here has also done several other costume changes. She's also done one where she reused the second character that she did for the skit that we did. So she was Tomio in the front, in the front half, and then at the later half, she was dressed as the flower card. So I went to capture her because I was Cardcaptor Sakura. So in that one, basically, she just had the garments kind of behind the curtain, changed into some of the pieces, and came out again. So when she reused that costume later to get to enter it again, well, she has 2 outfits. She has one where it's a skirt and one where it's pants, depending on which version of the media you look at. So because it was already rigged to get on really fast, that means it's also rigged to get off very fast. So she was able to do this extremely effective skit where she was like, oh no, I'm tripping on my big skirt. Angry, pull it off, second outfit. Just like that. Super simple, in theory, because there's a bit of working around a hoop skirt and everything like that. So in theory, a very simple trick, very effective on stage because no one saw it coming. And that's the best thing you can do. Make sure if you're gonna have a trick, make sure it's not, well again, like with these, don't like carry it on like this, or don't wait for your music and then start. Like everyone will be like, oh, I know what you're about to do. It kind of ruins the surprise and ruins the effect. The important part with a trick is to make sure it's not just going on stage and doing a trick. Make it a performance. Have some flourishes before you do it. Have a little pizzazz, have a little in-character moment before you incorporate the trick. Because if you don't, then you're kind of giving away that you're about to do a trick. And if you just do a trick, it will not come off as effectively. Yeah, a lot of these tricks can be super, super easy to do. Again, I did them in order so you can kind of get an idea. I will say that from the cards to that was a very big jump in difficulty. This is definitely the hardest. And I would recommend having practice with other forms of costume change before jumping into a spin dress, because this was very difficult. And if Allison was not kind of like workshopping it with me, it would have been very, very, very hard to do on my own.
It took two of us to be able to engineer this properly, to be able to practice properly, and figure out what each one of us had as pros and cons. So the con for Annie being the fact that she kept spinning the wrong way. So we implemented a shoulder push to make sure that she would always turn the right way, because if I'm forcing her in a direction, she's going to go in that direction.
I think at first we didn't have, our sleeve at first didn't have that shoulder seam, that shoulder pull. So when we try to spin out, it would get like stuck on my neck, and I'd be like, kind of like stuck in it. I was like, okay, that needs to come off as well. And we figured out very early, like, oh, do both sleeves need to come down? No, because with the pressure of the spin, that other sleeve kind of pulls right off, as you just saw with Colette when it stole her bracer there. But it just kind of pulls off. She didn't have to think about it at all, only had to think about one side. And that's the other good thing about tricks. The less you have to think about, the better, typically. Because if you decide to do all of these tricks in one minute skit, that's gonna go well for you, basically. The more tricks you have, the more risk that it won't work sometimes.
And no matter what goes wrong, anytime you do any of these tricks and you're still on stage, at least with film you can stop it. But if you're on stage, just go with it.
Just go, roll with it.
Just go with it, roll with it, pretend like everything was done completely as expected. Ham it up if you have to, but ultimately, just gotta roll with the punches.
Yeah, and to be fair, if you look at any of those big skits out there, the ECG, the WCS, any of these big competitions, I can tell you, even the first place, they could be like, that went wrong, that went wrong, that went wrong, that went wrong. But if you were to just look at the video, you'd never be able to tell. And that's the biggest difference between a really effective performance and a non-effective performance. A lot of people say, like when I do panels like these, they say, oh, so is this a skit on how to win in a cosplay masquerade? No, this is a panel on how to do effective performance. Because you can do an effective performance, but everyone else also does an effective performance. But this can help you, first off, have a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun coming up with skit ideas and working with transformations and such, as has Zoe up here, who also helped out with a very special Princess Peach skit, because guess what? Princess Peach's wedding dress is strapless, and her regular dress isn't. That was just asking for a skit to happen, now wasn't it? So things like that, you can get inspiration from the silliest things sometimes and be like, what if I did a magic trick with that? Trust me, I already have ideas.